when you see from the database point of view, usually application will be like this, because if you take any application will have these layers. One is about presentation layer, which is on print, you can see application or a logic layer. So where here this programmers and all, everybody will write the code and all, everything under application and logic layer. The third one is called data layer. Data layer means where we are writing the data, right? So all that. So from here onwards, extracting the data and all, everything we have to do. So in this data layer, usually this database, because whenever we want to develop any project, usually, so there are three different layers. One is presentation layer, where you can write this user interfaces, HTML related information, whatever is relating to HTML pages, HTML pages or something like what are the pages we create, which maybe whichever the tool are we using. All these things comes under this presentation layer. So next is application logic layer, where normally this code, right? So whatever the program, whichever is to display, so that logic will be developed in a form of application logic layer here. The third one is data layer. Data layer means here normally database team, whenever the project starts working, database team has to create some database tables. Database tables has to be created by the database team. So that, for example, you are mentioning or you are developing an application, something relating to banking. Okay. So there are two things. One is input, second is output, right? There are two things will be there. Input we will be giving in a form of forms. Inputs are nothing but forms, means using HTML forms, all that. Input will be given to the system. And second is report. Report means what is that you see on the screen. Once you have done something, whatever the final output you see is called form. So input is form, output is report, right? This is what generally we follow. Input is form and output is report. For input and all, on the presentation screen, what you see on the GUI, this input, we use HTML and all everything to prepare that. Wherein output for that report to prepare, there are different third party tools, something like crystal reports and all everything will be used by the application development team. Now, if you want to see the report, how do you see the report? For example, you are developing an application, something relating to banking or something. You would like to know about the customers who are maintaining on an average $500 in this quarter. On an average in the quarter, they have to maintain somewhere around $500, right? So this is what you want to see. Now you want to have this classification that these people must be the residents of so and so state, maybe, for example. That is one more filtering. And one more filtering is required, is that the age group must be between 35 to 45. So these are the classifications, depends on the kind of business requirement. Report generations has to be made. So if you want to filter this process, what is required? So there are some database tables has to be created, first of all. If you want to create those database tables and all everything, this is how generally the schemas will be. There will be of two different schemes. Like one is in reference to the schemas of database, we have tables. Whatever you are creating based on the classification, like for example, customer name, right? So as separate. Whenever you are providing the name of the customer, it will go and store it in the customer database. For example, you are giving some contact details like phone number or something like that will be stored there. So that is the reason what is that they have to do. They need to create some tables and all that. And whatever the tables they have created, if they want to see something as an output and all, that's what we call it as view. Next, there are some indexes we have, right? Whatever the indexes do we require to follow and all everything comes under that. Of course, synonyms and as well as procedures and all everything are the regular things. So these are the different components which will be there in any of the database. So when someone is creating a application, There is a database, and database creation and how you are creating the database tables as well as views and all everything are essentially important for any of the application. Now, when we see about this database part and all that, so there are different queries which normally SQL people has to write. For example, what is that I said? Um, you want to know, you want to extract the information of the customers. Average balance should be 500, right? That's what their focus is, right? So average $500 they want to average whoever is maintaining $500 in this quarter, they want to get a report. Now, again, one more filtering process, age group, right? Maybe other filtering process they may require to see the people from to see the people that from which place the residing place, right? So it depends on the state. So different filtering processes we have to do. Means if you want to filter this process, just creating a database table and updating data is itself is not sufficient. There must be some users or the developers, whoever are using this application as well as the development team, has to write some SQL queries. This is where we call it a structured query language. This structured query language or SQL in short will be used to extract the information from the database, because whatever the structured query language queries and all everything will be stored in the database management system. Because in this database management system, this is how it looks like, right? So this is all something categorized like tables, views and all, right? In this way generally the schemas are stored. So whenever the schemas and all everything stored, so this information will be stored in the data storage, which is there somewhere in the server. This servers may be a virtual server even. Servers will be located in different parts of the places. Servers may not be in one location. Server may be in different parts of the location, because sometimes, for example, uh, if you, for example, an online shopping portal kind of stuff, right? So server located somewhere where multiple servers are maintaining by that organization in order to maintain the load balance, because load is very high, so that automatically it will get impacted on the server. So that's all comes under load balancing, fault tolerancing, all that. So these database administrative people will take care of. So we have to extract the information from the server where the data has been stored. So data storage as a separate, because for this data storage, if you are moving towards high level data, means large scale of data, if you want to maintain and all, there are some data warehouses which we create. Normally, you might have heard about some terminologies like data warehousing, Cognos, business objects, all that, right? So different ETL tools are there. ETL tools will be used. So data warehousing thing like. So data warehousing means where some amount of small data, if you are maintaining and all, local data storages and all everything will be sufficient. But when you want to maintain the data which is something large in scale, then for sure you require some data warehousing repositories and all everything to maintain all these. So this is where generally this data will be stored. So if someone wants to extract that information, for example, a user or a developer wants to extract some information uh, about something relating to the report generations and all that, developer has to write some queries, SQL queries and all everything they have to write. So this is how generally this database process and all everything functions in back end of the project, because whatever the database management system or the databases are we talking about, that you don't see anything on screen. You see only the result, you don't see anything else apart, right? You see only the screen and all. Where there is a physical database, this physical database will be connecting with the database management systems, all that. Wherein some writing some queries and all using SQL queries and all. So extracting of the database from the data is from the servers and all everything is possible. Now, in what way being a business analyst we will be interacting with? In some organizations, because I don't say this is mandatory, but in some organizations, people may ask us to have some knowledge over the SQL part. So that is one thing. Above than all, before that, knowing about the knowledge about the SQL and all something, About and all, some people will ask you have to have a knowledge over the database process. Why? Because whatever the data you are mentioning, for example, you are mentioning the data of an employee. So whenever you are entering the data and all, who is going to provide that information? That information will be provided by the customer and all. So that information through a business analyst, this information will be reaches to the database team. So for that reason, knowing about the structure of database management system is required for a BA. We having an understanding and overview. I mean to say that expertise level depends on the profile to profile it vary and individual interest as well. This is first point. Second point is that it's not only for knowing about the information when you are creating database tables. The second reason is when you want to extract the reports and all, you must be knowing about what report to be extracted. So because extraction of the reports depends on the business decisions, what is that we are taking and what decisions to be taken here. So on that grounds, even being a business analyst, knowing about the database management system, how and what it exactly it functions and all. So what are the different databases do we have, right? So because what are the different database systems we use? Because some people use Oracle as a database, some use somebody use SQL, somebody use Sybase, right? MS Access, of course. Sybase and MS Access were very the old ones. Like we have NoSQL was there. Recently, we have a NoSQL database. At the same time, we have SQL database. We have Oracle as well, SQL Server. So these are the different databases which normally uses by the organizations when they are working on the application. So being a business analyst, when there are some data which has to be stored into the systems to extract the information whatever we want to write SQL queries, all that there is some input of data has to be given. So the data will be coming from the business analyst. So being a BA, you must have an idea over the database, like what exactly database management system or a database will works, and in what way this is being used for us to understand about the information and how this information is being stored and how to extract this information. So that knowledge, if you have being a BA, it is more advantageous. So these are the two external entities because testing and as well as database knowledge over the database knowledge as well as testing. These are two are the external entities apart from the knowledge areas because we don't get all these in the knowledge areas. Because knowledge areas are the expertise levels which a business analyst requires and business analyst must have. Remaining things, right? Knowing about testing knowledge, how depth are we? Because some people, especially for BA, why is it more specific nowadays? Because some people come from IT background because not every BA come from non-IT. Because people who are working as a programmers or testers for a long time, if they want to enter into a project management site, right? So they want to enter into project management roles and all that. So business analyst is an entry gate to them. On that regard, what is that they require is they come as a business analyst, they join as a BA, and later on they want to move towards management level. That's how generally people who are in IT, especially from the IT background, will think. That's what their thinking perception is. So for them, usually this knowing about SQL or databases or testing, maybe manual testing or automation testing, they'll have a knowledge over. So that way they are having advantage. People who are coming from database functional side and all everything, these people have an advantage over the domain. So of course, everybody have their own positives in these things, right? So this is how generally the knowledge over this is required for any BA to understand about what is that happens in back of the application. So this knowledge you have, it is more advantage and it is more convenient for you to interact with different people because what they are doing, right? So how they are doing. So because even it is easy for us to know about how much effort will it be taken for them to work. so that there are chances if there is any delay in projects taken place, so that we have a chance to interact with the customer, and we can get some permissions out of it. So this is all things can be done by a PE. So these are the two knowledges, like knowing about the testing, having a knowledge over the testing, and knowing about the knowledge of databases and all of the thing is some way advantageous for a business analyst, so that the interaction and as well as effectiveness of their job profiles will be more better rather than without knowing anything. Of course, there are a lot many things were also coming into picture nowadays, because end of the day it's all continuous updation which we have to do.